So I've been with Emilio for almost 3 years now, and we've been living together in this apartment for like 15 months. Things were pretty good between us, or at least I thought they were, until my birthday last week when everything literally exploded in my face. I've always been the type to get super excited about birthdays, mine or anyone else's TBH. I love the whole celebration vibe, the cake, the little surprises. Emilio knew this about me, and for our first 2 years together, he made my birthdays feel special. Nothing crazy expensive, just thoughtful stuff that showed he paid attention. This year, I was turning 21, which felt like a big deal to me. I'd been dropping hints about wanting to do something memorable, maybe a weekend trip or even just a nice dinner somewhere that wasn't our usual takeout spots. Emilio seemed to be on board, kept saying he had something really special planned. The week before my birthday, though, I started noticing weird stuff. Emilio was being super secretive with his phone, like jumping when I'd walk into the room. He was taking calls outside on the balcony, which he never does, especially when it was raining. His whole vibe was off, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. 2 days before my birthday, I was using his laptop, which was never a big deal between us, to order some stuff online since mine was being repaired. When I opened the browser, there was an open tab with a jewelry store and an appointment confirmation for a custom ring sizing. My heart literally stopped. I know I shouldn't have, but I clicked through his history and found multiple searches for proposal ideas and how to propose from the past month. I felt so stupid in that moment because my first thought was, OMG, he's going to propose to me on my birthday. I closed the laptop and tried to act normal, but inside I was freaking out with excitement. Then on the morning of my actual birthday, Emilio seemed weirdly distant. He gave me a quick kiss, said happy birthday babe, and then said he had to run some last-minute errands for my surprise later. He was being so sketchy that I started feeling anxious, but I was still holding on to that proposal hope. While he was gone, his mom called me to wish me happy birthday. We've always gotten along really well, and she's super sweet. During our convo, she said something that made my blood freeze. She asked if I'd heard the big news about Ray's girlfriend. Ray is Emilio's best friend since high school. I played it cool, and she continued, saying something about how Kathy, Ray's girlfriend, must be so excited about the proposal and how she can't wait to see the ring Emilio helped Ray pick out. I literally couldn't breathe. His mom realized she'd said something wrong and quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. I hung up and just sat there trying to process. Emilio had been helping Ray propose to Kathy. The jewelry store appointment, the searches, all of it was for them, not me. But that wasn't even the worst part. I started putting all the pieces together. The secretive phone calls, the late nights hanging with Ray, the weird behavior. Something still felt off. I did something I never thought I would do. I checked Emilio's messages when he left his phone to shower. What I found destroyed me. The messages showed that Emilio wasn't just helping with the proposal. He was doing the proposing to Kathy. Ray's girlfriend was actually Emilio's other girlfriend. They had this whole plan where Emilio would propose to Kathy on my birthday while pretending to be out getting my surprise. The messages went back months. Emilio and Kathy had been seeing each other behind both mine. Emilio had been living with me while planning a future with her. The ultimate betrayal was him choosing my birthday as the perfect cover to propose to her, because I would never suspect anything on that day. I sat there shaking, reading message after message about their future plans, how they'd eventually tell Ray and me after the engagement was official, how Emilio planned to slowly move his stuff out over the next few weeks while I was at class, how Kathy couldn't wait to wear her ring that they'd picked out together. When Emilio got out of the shower, he had the audacity to act all normal, telling me to get dressed for my special birthday surprise later. I somehow managed to keep it together, nodding and smiling while dying inside. He left again, saying he needed to pick something up and would be back in a few hours. I knew exactly where he was going, to propose to Kathy, on my birthday, while still living with me. I couldn't just sit there and wait for him to come back with some fake story about my birthday surprise that never happened. I had to do something, so I made a decision right then and there. I grabbed my keys and... First update. Alright, so... If you read my first post, you know I found out in the most insane way possible that my boyfriend Emilio was planning to propose to his other girlfriend Kathy on my birthday, using me as cover while he was living in my apartment. If you missed the context, I basically went from thinking he was going to pop the question to me to realizing I was the side chick in my own damn home, and he was about to propose to someone else. Someone who was supposed to be his best friend's girlfriend. I'll be honest, when I grabbed my keys and slammed our front door behind me that morning, I had zero idea what I was actually going to do. I wasn't even thinking straight. Just running on this shaky, cold anger that kept rising in waves. I think I scared the neighbor's cat out of the stairwell. I barely noticed, I was so in my head. It was pouring outside, the kind of rain that makes everything look blurry. But I just got in my car and sat there for like 5 minutes, phone in my hand, trying to figure out where the hell Emilio would take Kathy for something like this. The thing is, Emilio's never been good at actually hiding stuff. He's the type to leave tabs open, drop a location on his phone, and forget to delete it. Or tell one person one story and someone else a slightly different one. I remembered a week earlier he was talking about the little park with the weird metal sculpture when he was on the phone with Ray. I guess that was a cover story, but whatever. I also remembered Kathy posted a couple weeks ago on her private Instagram about how she loved the view from the bridge at Riverview Park and could spend all day there. Yes, I know, I stalked her. You would too if you were me. So I basically just gambled. If Emilio's trying to make this a special moment, he'd go somewhere she likes, and if he's stupid enough to use my birthday as cover, he's probably stupid enough to go somewhere public. I drove straight to Riverview Park, which is like a 20-minute drive in traffic, and the whole time I was rehearsing what I'd say, but also doubting if I'd actually go through with it. IDK if anyone else does this, but in my head, I kept replaying what I'd seen in his messages. Those lines like, she'll never suspect a thing, and it'll be the perfect day. I was getting angrier by the second, but also weirdly terrified. What if I was wrong, and I just showed up looking crazy? What if they were somewhere else and I missed my only chance to call him out to his face? It was still raining when I got to the park and parked near the entrance. I sat there for a second, scrolling through my camera roll, trying to find any hint in those screenshots I took of Emilio's messages about a time or exact spot. Yes, I screenshotted everything before leaving. I'm not stupid. He mentioned afternoon, and it was already 12:30, so I got out and started walking, hoodie up, phone in my pocket, shoes already wet. I felt ridiculous, like a movie villain sneaking around, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to see him try to explain himself to my face. The park was emptier than usual, probably because of the weather, but there were still a few people out. I nearly walked right past them, but then I heard laughter. Loud, fake, Kathy's laugh, the one she does for attention. I looked up and saw them by the sculpture. Emilio in his pressed jeans and that stupid blue hoodie I bought him, and Kathy in this white dress that was already muddy at the hem. She looked like she thought she was the main character in a rom-com. He was holding a little box. It was actually happening. I just walked right up. I didn't even think. I just did it. I wish I could say I had some epic speech prepared, but honestly, I just started talking. It all came out at once, like a dam breaking. So this is the big surprise, huh? You two really couldn't wait even one more day to ruin my life? Kathy's face went pale, like she'd seen a ghost, and Emilio actually had the balls to look annoyed, like I was bothering him. He tried to do this whole, "What are you doing here?" act, but I cut him off. I didn't shout, not at first. I just laid it all out. How I found the ring tab, the messages, how his mom accidentally spilled everything. I told Kathy exactly what I'd read, word for word, about how they planned to let me down easy after the engagement, how Emilio was using my birthday as cover, how Ray was supposed to be clueless too. Kathy kept shaking her head, trying to say I was confused, but Emilio kept glancing around like he wanted to melt into the ground or maybe throttle me. Then the arguing really started. I was pissed, but I wasn't screaming. More like this cold, sharp thing in my voice that I don't think I've ever heard from myself before. Emilio tried to say I was overreacting, that it wasn't what it looked like, and I just laughed, this ugly, bitter sound. I asked him, "So what, were the texts fake? Was Kathy just your jewelry consultant?" Kathy started crying, which honestly made me angrier because she kept saying I was making a scene and ruining a special moment. Like, girl, the only thing I ruined was your fantasy that you could steal someone else's boyfriend and not get called out for it. At this point, people were staring, and Emilio tried to move me aside physically like he could just shuffle me out of the way and keep pretending everything was fine. I shoved him back, not hard, but enough to make it clear I wasn't going anywhere. He said I was embarrassing myself and should leave before I regret it. That's when I lost my shit a little. I told him the only thing I regretted was wasting 3 years on a lying, manipulative asshole who thought I was too dumb to notice his double life. Kathy tried to defend herself. She said she never meant to hurt me, that it just happened, that Emilio told her we were basically over, which is total bullshit. I said, if we were so over, why were you still living with me, sleeping in my bed, eating my groceries, and pretending to plan my birthday? She had nothing to say to that. She just kept crying, and Emilio kept trying to look like the victim, saying I was ruining things for everyone, like he hadn't already ruined everything himself. And then, in the middle of this mess, Ray shows up. He must have gotten the text or call from Emilio because he looked confused, then absolutely panicked when he saw Kathy and me yelling. You should have seen the way his face changed when he realized what was happening. He asked what the hell was going on, and I just told him. No drama, just the plain truth. Your best friend and your girlfriend have been together behind both our backs, and they were about to celebrate it by getting engaged on my birthday. Ray didn't believe me at first. He looked at Emilio, then Kathy, then me, and just kept asking for proof. I showed him the screenshots on my phone, not even caring that my hands were shaking. Kathy tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it away. Ray just stood there for a second, then turned to Emilio and asked him flat out, "Is this true?" Emilio just stared down at the ground, not saying a word. Kathy started pleading with Ray, saying she loved him. She didn't mean for it to happen, that she wanted to explain things privately. Ray wasn't having it. He just said, "Don't, just don't." The next 10 minutes were a disaster. Ray was yelling at Emilio. Emilio was trying to say it wasn't that simple. Kathy was sobbing and begging Ray to forgive her, and I was just standing there, watching the whole thing unravel. Some old guy walking his dog stopped to watch. A woman with a stroller gave us the dirtiest look. I felt like I was watching my own life fall apart from outside my own body, but I also felt this weird sense of victory, like at least the truth was out and nobody could gaslight me about what happened. Things got physical for a second. Ray tried to go after Emilio, who put his hands up and told him to calm down, which obviously didn't help. I stepped between them, not because I cared about Emilio, but because I didn't want the cops called or for anyone to get actually hurt. Emilio jerked away from me and muttered something about crazy bitches, which I heard, and yeah, I let him have it. I told him if he ever set foot in my apartment again, I'd call the cops and tell them everything and that he could pick up his stuff from the curb if he was lucky. Kathy tried to chase after Ray when he walked away, but he just kept going. Emilio stood there, looking like he wanted to say something, but ended up slamming the ring box shut and storming off toward the parking lot. Kathy just sat down on the wet grass and cried. I almost felt bad for her, but honestly, after everything, I couldn't find any sympathy in me. I walked back to my car, soaked, mud on my jeans, shaking with adrenaline, but also this weird sense of clarity. I called my mom on the way home. She picked up right away, and I didn't even have to explain much. She could tell something was wrong from my voice. I told her most of what happened, which was hard, because I could hear her trying not to sound too angry, but also wanting to come over and help. She offered to drive over, but I told her I needed a minute to just be alone. She said she'd call again later. When I got home, I noticed I'd missed a couple calls from Emilio and a text from his mom. The text was all, "Let's talk about this. I'm sure there's some misunderstanding. Emilio loves you, give him a chance to explain." I ignored it. I was over explanations. I needed action. I double-checked the bolt on the door and started thinking about what I'd need to do to get him out for good. I started packing up his stuff, just the basics at first. His hoodies, his gym shoes, his phone charger, all that random crap he leaves everywhere. I made a pile by the front door. I was pretty loud about it too, not gonna lie. I wanted him to know, if he came back, that he wasn't welcome here. I blasted music, not out of spite, just because the silence felt way too heavy. He showed up less than an hour later, banging on the door, yelling for me to let him in so we can talk like adults. I left him out in the hallway. He kept at it, knocking and shouting, until one of our neighbors, the one with the baby, came out and asked him to keep it down. Emilio yelled at her too, saying it wasn't her business. She told him if he didn't leave, she'd call the building manager. He stopped yelling but kept knocking, quieter now, like he was trying to guilt me into opening up. Eventually, I opened the door a crack, just enough so he could see my face. I told him he could take his stuff and go, or I'd call the cops. He tried to push his way in, but I blocked the door with my arm and told him not to. He started talking fast about how everyone makes mistakes, and how he didn't mean to hurt me, and how he just got confused. He tried to say things with Kathy just happened, that he was under pressure, and didn't want to lose me. He even said he was still figuring things out. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I told him I didn't care anymore. I was done being lied to. He could take his crap and leave, or I'd dump it all in the street. He took his stuff, huffing and swearing the whole time. He tried to say that I was overreacting, and that everyone would see me for what I really am. I laughed. I told him, "You mean honest? At least I'm not a liar." I called my mom again, and this time I let her come over. She brought groceries and sat with me for a while. We didn't talk about Emilio much. She said she was proud of me for standing up for myself, but I could tell she was worried. She asked if I wanted to stay at her place for a few days, but I said no. I wanted to be in my own home, even if just to prove I could make it mine again. Later that night, I got a message from Ray. Just a thumbs up emoji and then a follow-up. "Thanks for telling me. I had no idea." I replied, "Same here." We didn't say anything else. I wondered if I'd ever see him again or if he'd just disappear from my life now that everything was out in the open. Kathy didn't contact me at all. I saw on Instagram stories that she was at her friend's place, posting sad song lyrics and black and white selfies. Emilio's mom called twice more, but I let it go to voicemail. I knew I'd have to deal with the fallout eventually, but for that night, I just wanted to exist. If you made it this far, congrats, because honestly, I wish I could say that was the end, but it's not. There's way more I need to deal with. Bills, the lease, my own friends picking sides, and Emilio not being done with his drama yet. But that's another story. I'll update when I figure out what the hell happens next. Second update, all right, Reddit, strap in, because I can barely believe half of what's happened lately, and I'm the one who lived it. If you're new here, last post I basically detonated my relationship with Emilio by showing up at his secret proposal to Kathy, who he'd been cheating on me with behind both me and her boyfriend Ray's backs. Yeah, you can't make this up. I woke up the day after the whole park drama feeling like I'd been run over by a truck, not just because of the emotional mess, but because I legit slept on the couch surrounded by a pile of Emilio's old hoodies and a half-eaten family-sized bag of chips my mom brought over. My phone was still lighting up with messages, but now it was stuff like, "Are you okay?" from people I haven't spoken to since high school, and a ton of missed calls from Emilio's mom. My own mom texted at 7:15, asking if she could come by after her yoga class to check on me and maybe help sort out the mess. She also added, "Do not throw anything out until I see it." Moms, man. I spent most of the morning in a weird limbo, kind of wandering around the apartment, picking up random stuff. Emilio's old earbuds, a coffee mug with his name on it. Like, who gets a personalized mug for their birthday when they're not even a coffee person? The place felt smaller and messier without him there. which was honestly annoying. I started a pile by the door, just like last night, but this time I was more methodical. I tossed in stuff I knew he'd want immediately. His running shoes, his old jean jacket, the keys to his bike lock, which he never used but acted like was a family heirloom for some reason. By 10, my mom showed up, hair still damp from her workout, carrying a tote bag full of random cleaning supplies and, no joke, a folder labeled the emergency plan. I didn't even ask. She walked in, took one look at the piles, and said, "That's it? Where's all his tech? Where's the paperwork?" I told her I didn't feel like playing detective yet. She rolled her eyes and started making a list on her phone, muttering about tracking serial numbers for insurance. She has this way of taking over a crisis that's both comforting and honestly a little frustrating. I love her, but she's a chaos magnet. We were in the middle of arguing over whether I should bag up his old game console. It was technically a gift from me, but he paid for the controller, if you want to get petty, when there was a knock at the door. Not the angry pounding kind from last night, but a weird, hesitant tapping. I checked the peephole, and of course it was Emilio, but this time he wasn't alone. His mom was standing behind him, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to chew through the door. I felt my stomach drop. My mom motioned for me to let them in, but I hesitated. Eventually, I opened the door just wide enough to show I wasn't messing around. Emilio started his speech instantly, talking fast about how he just wants his stuff and doesn't need any drama. His mom cut him off, turning to my mom and asking if they could all be adults and sort this out properly. The tension in that hallway, for my mom, never one to back down, invited them in but immediately laid down ground rules. No yelling, no accusations, and absolutely no touching anything without her say-so. I think Emilio's mom was taken aback, but she agreed, saying she just wanted to make sure her son wasn't being unfairly treated. I could see my mom's jaw clench, but she let it go. We all crammed into the living room, which felt about the size of a closet with 4 adults and a giant pile of random crap on the floor. My mom sat down on the arm of the couch, arms folded, looking at me like, "Your move." Emilio stood by the window, hands in his pockets, refusing to look at me, and his mom perched on the edge of the chair, clutching her phone like she was documenting everything for Judge Judy. There was a lot of silence at first, the kind where nobody wants to be the first to speak. Eventually, my mom broke it, asking what exactly Emilio wanted to take and if he was planning to leave anything for me to deal with. Emilio finally looked at me, and for a second I saw something like regret there, but it vanished quick. He said he just wanted his personal belongings and would leave the big stuff for now, since he didn't want to make things harder than they already were. His mom chimed in, saying she hoped we could all be reasonable adults and not escalate things. My mom asked, "Define reasonable," which NGL made me want to laugh, but I kept my mouth shut. Emilio started listing off things he wanted: clothes, shoes, his old tablet, some books, his game console. When he got to the couch, my mom straight up said, "That's not happening. She paid for it. It stays." His mom tried to argue about how they bought it together, but my mom pulled out the receipts right then and there, showing she'd fronted half the cost as a moving-in present. Emilio's mom looked pretty annoyed, but she didn't push it. Then things got more real. Emilio started trying to claim stuff that was obviously mine, like kitchen gadgets my grandma gave me, or the Bluetooth speaker my dad mailed me last Christmas. My mom shut that down fast, but it was pretty clear Emilio was just trying to make things messy, maybe to force me to negotiate. Eventually, he gave up and started stuffing his things into reusable bags my mom handed him. She pointed out it would be less noisy for the neighbors, which was code for, "Don't you dare make a scene here." It was all going okay. Awkward, but manageable. Until Emilio's mom started in about the emotional damage I'd done to her son and how she hoped I'd think twice before publicly humiliating people in the future. I couldn't help it. I snapped back that maybe her son should think twice before lying to everyone he knows. My mom actually laughed, which didn't help. That's when things spiraled. Emilio's mom started raising her voice, talking about how young people today have no respect for relationships, and how I was making things worse for everyone. My mom, who'd been holding it together, finally lost her cool and told her, "Maybe if you'd taught your son some respect, we wouldn't be here." Emilio tried to step between them, but my mom just glared him down. The two moms started arguing, not quite yelling, but definitely heated, about parenting, respect, who paid for what, and who was responsible for the chaos. It was wild. I just stood there holding a bag of socks, trying not to laugh or cry. There was this weird moment where both moms realized they were basically blaming each other for how messy the breakup was. And then my mom just said, "Let's just get this over with before the whole building calls security." That actually worked. Everyone simmered down, but the tension was thick. After about an hour of this, Emilio had most of his stuff packed up. He kept trying to say goodbye to me, but I just ignored him. His mom said she hoped I'd grow up and learn from this, which was rich coming from her. My mom walked them to the door, not smiling, and watched them go all the way down the hall. When she came back in, she just collapsed onto the couch and muttered, "Well, that was a disaster." I couldn't even argue. We sat for a while, just decompressing. My mom pulled out her emergency plan folder and started going through the lease and bills, making a list of what needed to be changed. She started texting my dad updates, And at one point, she called him on speaker so I could hear him rant about how, if that boy tries anything, I'll come down there myself. I know my parents aren't together, but they team up in a crisis, and honestly, I needed that right now. Then, because the universe wasn't done with me, Kathy's mom called my mom. Yeah, I didn't know they'd ever even spoken, but apparently they met once at some mutual friends party when we first moved in. She wanted to know if I'd forgive Kathy and let her apologize in person, because Kathy was having a really hard time and felt trapped. My mom, who has exactly zero patience for drama, told her that Kathy needed to figure out her own mess, and that I wasn't obligated to talk to anyone if I didn't want to. I could hear Kathy's mom getting frustrated, saying things like, "Young people make mistakes, we all do," and my mom just firing back that, "Mistakes are one thing, betrayal is another." They ended the call with a weird truce, like, "We'll stay out of each other's business, but also, don't contact us again unless it's urgent." I started getting group chat notifications again. Some friends wanted to know if I was okay and if the rumors about the park were true. Others wanted to know if I still had the ring, or if I was going to air out Emilio's dirty laundry on social media. There was a weird moment where one of my old friends, I'll call her Marley, DM'd me saying she'd heard Emilio was telling people I was unstable and overdramatic, and that's why he left. Typical. I asked her if anyone actually believed him, and she said, "TBH, people are just confused. It's all messy." She wasn't taking sides exactly, but she did say she thought I was handling it better than most would. Not sure if that counts as a win. The next couple of days blurred together. My mom stayed over for 2 nights, partly because I asked her to, partly because she didn't trust Emilio not to show up again. She went full project manager mode, helping me change the Wi-Fi password, set up new door locks, thank you Amazon same-day delivery, and even draft a text to the landlord about changing the name on the utility bill. She wasn't just being helpful, she was angry. She kept muttering about how Emilio's mom never respected boundaries and how, "This is why you don't mix families before you're sure." I told her not everything is that simple, and she admitted she probably overstepped. Still, she was right about the boundaries. I ran into Emilio once in the lobby a few days later. He was with his mom, carrying another box of his stuff that he'd forgotten. He barely looked at me, but his mom stopped to tell me, "You should be careful who you trust next time." I just rolled my eyes and kept walking. I saw him again later, alone, waiting for the elevator. He tried to talk, something about how he didn't want to leave things like this, but I told him, this is exactly how they need to be. He didn't push. He just nodded, said something about how he hopes I'm happy, and left. Meanwhile, my mom was still deep in fix everything mode. At one point, she started calling up some of my friends, without asking, to check on them and see if they were real friends or just drama chasers. I found out when Marley texted me, "Your mom just called me?" and I had to apologize. My mom wasn't mad when I called her out, just said she was trying to protect me. I got it, but it was still embarrassing. She even called my dad to see if he could talk to Emilio man to man, which he said was a terrible idea, and he was right. There were these weird moments of normalcy between all the chaos, like my mom and I fighting over what to watch on Netflix, or arguing about whether pineapple belongs on pizza, or her telling stories from her own wild 20s that I'd never heard before, like the time she and her college boyfriend broke up and she threw his shoes out the window, but then had to fish them out from a tree. She admitted she'd made mistakes too, but told me I was handling things better than she ever did. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in ages. But yeah, the drama never really let up. One night, after my mom had gone home, I got a call from the building manager. He said there had been multiple noise complaints about the whole moving out situation, and if things got loud again, there could be fines. He also said Emilio's mom had called to complain that I was damaging her son's property, which was actually hilarious because all I did was pack it up and put it by the door. Still, I apologized and promised to keep it down. He seemed sympathetic, but warned me to avoid any more drama in public areas. That same week, I saw Kathy for the first time since the park. She showed up outside my building, sitting on the curb with her phone, looking like she wanted to talk. I didn't want to, honestly, but I didn't want her making a scene either. I went outside and stood a good 6 feet away, arms crossed, just waiting for her to speak. She started off with the usual, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for any of this to happen," but I stopped her. I told her I didn't want to hear apologies. I just wanted her to leave me alone and stop trying to explain away what happened. She tried to say Emilio told her we were finished, that he made her think I didn't care anymore, but I just said, "You knew he was with me. You didn't care until you got caught." She started crying, which felt weirdly forced, and I just walked away. She didn't follow. My mom called later, asking if I was okay, and I told her what happened. She surprised me by saying, maybe it's better to just block her number and move on. Usually, she's all about talking things out, but I guess even she was done with the drama at this point. She told me she'd talk to Emilio's mom again, who apparently was now threatening to take legal action if I didn't return some family heirlooms. I asked what the hell she was talking about, and my mom said, "I think she means the ugly ceramic cat you hate." We both laughed. I wrapped it up in like 3 layers of bubble wrap and left it at the building's front desk with a sticky note. "Take your cat and go." So now, with Emilio's stuff gone, the apartment finally felt like mine again, except for the weird emptiness. My mom still checked in every day, but she was starting to let me have space. I kept getting little reminders that life was moving on, even if it felt like I was stuck in a rerun of The Real Housewives. My group chat was quieter, a couple people dropped out, but the ones who stuck around were the ones who actually cared. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. I wish I could say it's all settled, but knowing my luck, there's still more to come. Emilio's mom is still threatening legal stuff, and there's this whole thing with the landlord about who pays the rest of the lease now that we're technically single occupants. I have a feeling Emilio's not done being petty, but at least now I know who's actually got my back, and sometimes that's the only win you get. I'll update if anything else wild happens. Last update. So, I honestly thought after that whole circus with the parents and the moving out drama, things would finally calm down. Like, I was ready for some boring post-breakup sadness. Maybe a few nights of crying into microwave mac and cheese and obsessively scrolling through TikTok until my eyes hurt. But no, apparently the universe had one more round of chaos lined up for me, and Emilio was not about to just fade into the background. If you've made it this far, congrats, because this is where things got even messier, and I'm not even sure whose side I'm on anymore. But if you've ever been through a breakup where there's still shared stuff and shared bills, you know it never ends that easily. I started getting emails about bills that Emilio apparently forgot to update with his new address, so his half kept bouncing back to me. The landlord sent me a warning about late payment on the water bill, and I had to screenshot our old Venmo receipts to prove that Emilio was responsible for half of it. He kept ghosting my texts about splitting the final utilities, but apparently he had plenty of time to update Instagram with moody starting fresh captions and blurry mirror selfies. Then things got weirder. I started noticing little things moving around in the apartment. At first, I thought I was just losing it, but my keys would be in the wrong place or the living room window would be unlocked when I know I locked it. I got super paranoid, thinking maybe Emilio had made a copy of the key before I changed the locks, so I started double-checking everything. One night, I came home and found a random hoodie of his draped over my chair, like a calling card. I texted him, asking if he'd been in my place, and he acted all innocent, like, no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you just forgot. Sure, Emilio. Maybe I also forgot about your double life. I told my mom about it, and she was immediately in protective chaos mode, threatening to call the cops and demanding that I stay at her place. I refused because, honestly, I wasn't about to let Emilio scare me out of my own home. Instead, my mom insisted on coming over and doing a security sweep, checking every window and even making me test the smoke detectors. She also put one of those little door alarms on my bedroom, which beeped every time I opened it and drove me nuts for days. She meant well, but NGL, it got a little much. Still, I appreciated that she cared. Meanwhile, Emilio's mom started sending these long, guilt-trippy texts, saying things like, "You're making this so much harder for him than it needs to be," and "I hope you realize what you've done to our family." I showed a couple to my mom, who just scoffed and said, "Block her. She's not your problem." But part of me felt weird about it because Emilio's mom used to be kind to me, and now it was like we were suddenly enemies on some reality show neither of us wanted to be on. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from the landlord. He wanted to schedule a walkthrough because Emilio had apparently filed a complaint that I was damaging shared property and withholding his belongings. I was honestly stunned. Like, what property? The beanbag? The socks? I told the landlord he was welcome to come by, and I'd show him everything. He showed up 2 days later, clipboard in hand, and spent a solid 20 minutes poking around, asking questions like, "Do you know why there's a scratch on the front door?" I did. It was there before we moved in. He took pictures, made notes, and finally admitted Emilio's mom had been calling him repeatedly, demanding he take action to protect her son's interests. I was so embarrassed, I wanted to sink into the floor. After the walkthrough, my mom called Emilio's mom herself. She told her, point blank, that if she kept harassing me or the landlord, she'd get a restraining order. Emilio's mom hung up on her, then sent me a text saying, "I can't believe you're letting your mother ruin Emilio's life." I replied, "Maybe Emilio should have thought of that before ruining mine." Not my finest moment, but I was so done at this point. The real bomb dropped a week later, when I got a DM from Kathy out of nowhere. She wanted to meet up and talk things out, because she'd been thinking about everything, and realized Emilio wasn't honest with either of us. I just stared at the message for like 10 minutes, debating whether to even respond. My mom said not to. Her actual words were, "Don't give her the satisfaction of dragging you back into that mess." But I couldn't help myself, so I replied, "What's left to say?" She asked if we could just talk, not as enemies, but as people who both got played. So, against every instinct, I agreed to meet up in a busy coffee shop. We sat outside, both of us looking like we hadn't slept in weeks. Kathy started off really guarded, but eventually admitted she'd been getting the runaround from Emilio too. Apparently, he'd been telling her I was the crazy ex who wouldn't let go, and that he was only at the park with her because I forced him out. I kind of laughed at that, because honestly, it was such a joke. Kathy said she didn't believe him anymore, but she'd spent weeks doubting herself, feeling guilty for everything. We ended up talking for almost an hour, going back and forth about what happened, who knew what, and when. Kathy confessed she'd been trying to avoid me because she felt so much shame, and that her friends kept telling her to just block me and move on. I told her that was fine, actually, but that I hoped she'd realize Emilio was never going to be the guy she wanted him to be. She nodded, looking really tired, and said she was moving back in with her parents for a while. We didn't hug or anything, but it felt like we'd finally closed the book on the whole mess. Of course, that wasn't the end. The next day, Emilio showed up at my building again. This time he was with his mom, and they were both banging on the door, demanding I let him get the rest of his stuff. I opened the window and told them I'd packed everything and left it at the front desk, as agreed. Emilio started shouting about how I was petty and trying to keep him from moving on. His mom was yelling too, saying things like, "You'll regret this, you'll see." My neighbor from across the hall popped out and told them to keep it down or she'd call the cops. Emilio's mom called her a nosy old bat, which is honestly hilarious because my neighbor is like 40 and runs a dog walking business. I finally just closed the window and called the building manager, who came up and told Emilio and his mom to leave. They argued with him for a bit but eventually left, muttering about legal action and ungrateful children. The manager apologized to me and said he'd make a note in the building log, so if anything else happened, there'd be a record. The next day, I came home to see that someone had scratched "bitch" into my mailbox. I knew it was Emilio. Nobody else would go that far, and I'd seen him lurking in the hallway earlier. I took pictures, filed a report with the building manager, and sent Emilio a message telling him if anything else happened, I'd get the police involved. He replied with 3 middle finger emojis. Mature. Meanwhile, my mom started getting involved in her own weird ways. She set up a group chat with my dad and my aunt, sending them updates every time Emilio or his mom tried anything. My dad threatened to come over and have a word with Emilio, but I told him it would only make things worse. My aunt, who lives in another city, offered to let me crash at her place for a weekend if I needed a break. It was weirdly nice having the family drama focus on someone else's mess for once, even if only for a few days. The legal threats kept coming. Emilio's mom sent a letter via certified mail, no, I'm not kidding, saying she was prepared to take further action if I didn't return all family property. My mom read it and just laughed, saying, "She's bluffing. If she wants to pay a lawyer to fight over a beanbag chair, let her." But it did make me nervous, so I spent a whole afternoon documenting everything I still had that belonged to Emilio, taking photos and emailing them to myself, just in case. Then came the next twist. The landlord called to say Emilio was refusing to pay his half of the last month's rent, claiming he never lived there, and that I'd forged his signature on the lease renewal. I nearly lost it. I had to dig up the original lease, show that both our names were on it, and forward the landlord a ton of old screenshots just to prove I wasn't making it up. The landlord seemed sympathetic, but said if Emilio didn't pay, the balance was technically my responsibility, unless I wanted to take him to small claims court. My mom immediately offered to loan me the money, but I said no, I wanted to handle it myself. It was about principle at this point. So I sent Emilio a final message. "Pay your half of the rent, or I'll see you in court." He replied with a thumbs down emoji, then blocked me. I called the landlord and told him I'd cover the balance this time, but asked if he could put a note on Emilio's record for future references. The landlord agreed, but warned me that collections could get messy if I actually tried to pursue it legally. I wasn't sure what I'd do, but it felt good to at least stand my ground. Around this time, my mom decided to take the situation into her own hands. She called Emilio's mom, again, and told her that if they didn't back off, she'd go public with everything. Not like a Facebook post or anything dramatic, but she threatened to tell all of their mutual acquaintances about what had really happened, including the double life, the cheating, and the harassment after the breakup. Emilio's mom freaked out, accusing my mom of ruining her reputation, but my mom just said, "Actions have consequences." She hung up, then called me to let me know she'd taken care of it. In Gull, I was kind of impressed. The final straw happened last week. I got a notification that someone was trying to reset my Instagram password. I ignored it, but then it happened again and again. I changed my passwords, enabled two-factor, the whole deal. I don't know for sure it was Emilio, but I wouldn't put it past him. I mentioned it to my mom, who immediately suggested I take a break from social media for a while. I actually did. And TBH, it felt kind of freeing not to be doom scrolling every night. So now, here's where things stand. Emilio and his mom have finally stopped harassing me, at least for now. The landlord said the lease is officially just in my name, and I can finally move on from the whole mess. Kathy moved out of town, Ray blocked everyone, which, honestly, fair. And most of the group chat drama has died down. My mom still checks in, but she shifted her focus to planning a family trip this summer. I guess as a way to reset after all the chaos. I'm actually considering it. Maybe some distance will help me finally leave all of this behind. Will Emilio ever own up to what he did? Probably not. Do I care anymore? Honestly, not really. I've got my family, my friends, and my apartment back. And if I ever see his mom at the grocery store again, I'll just ignore her and keep walking. On to the next chapter, I guess. Thanks for reading, Reddit. If you ever find yourself in a breakup war zone, remember, change your locks, trust your gut, and never underestimate the chaos a determined mom can bring to the table.